It began quietly. The way most stories in space do. No sound. No alarm. Just a distant object gliding through the darkness, untouched, unbothered, and unseen by most of the world. Its name. 3I/Atlas. At first, it was just another speck in the sky, detected by a telescope in Hawaii. Astronomers marked it, catalogued it, and prepared for the usual workflow: track it, study it, and watch it pass the sun like countless other visitors from deep space. Nothing strange. Nothing unusual. Just another interstellar traveler. For months, that's how it stayed. Every night, observatories pointed their instruments toward the ecliptic, the thin highway in the sky where planets and comets move. And there, they watched 3I/Atlas drift silently along its path. It behaved normally: predictable speeds, predictable angle, predictable brightness. The kind of data that usually helps scientists sleep at night. But space has a way of changing the mood, when no one is ready. The first signs. The first sign appeared as a small number on a chart. A graph, only slightly off from where it should have been. A young research assistant noticed it first. A tiny shift in the object's light curve, the brightness recorded from Earth. At the time, it was easy to ignore. Maybe a sensor glitch. Maybe atmosphere interference. Maybe a calibration error. After all, nothing in space ever works perfectly the first time. But the shift didn't go away. It returned the next night. And the next. Soon, more observatories saw the same thing: a gentle dip in brightness, followed by a rise. As if 3I/Atlas was dimming and brightening on purpose. This was unusual. A normal comet does not do that. Dust and ice scatter light randomly. Nothing steady. Nothing rhythmic. But this was different. And that difference planted the first seed of unease. Check again. At the European Southern Observatory, a senior astronomer stared at the updated data with a slow exhale. "Check it again," he said. They did. Nothing changed. The numbers were the same. Now the room was quiet, because something was undeniably wrong. This wasn't just noise anymore. It was consistent. Mathematical. Purposeful. Scientists ran old models. None of them fit. They built new models. Those failed too. Every simulation ended with the same conclusion. The brightness of 3I/Atlas was changing in a way no natural object should be capable of. And when science reaches a dead end, the imagination starts asking questions no one wants to say out loud. The media silence. Normally, something like this would catch fire in the press, but not this time. The discovery stayed behind closed doors. Partially out of caution. Partially out of fear. Scientists wanted more data before the world started asking terrifying questions. If it isn't natural, then what is it? So, they continued watching. Night after night, across continents, telescopes kept following the silent traveler. And while the world slept, 3I/Atlas continued to change. A growing pattern. Weeks passed, and the fluctuations in light became stronger. Patterns emerged, patterns that repeated, paused, and returned again. One researcher whispered the thought everyone feared. "It looks like a signal." Nobody answered. Because no one wanted to be the first to suggest something impossible. Something artificial. But they couldn't ignore the facts. A comet should scatter light randomly. Its brightness should fade smoothly as it rotates or loses material. But 3I/Atlas was doing neither. It wasn't fading randomly. It wasn't responding to sunlight in a natural way. Instead, the light curve looked as if something on the object was reflecting light back toward Earth. As if something was turning. Or adjusting. Or reacting. One scientist wrote in his notebook. "It behaves like a mirrored surface repositioning itself." Nobody slept well that night. The human side of discovery. It's easy to watch a science documentary and forget the human reality behind it: late nights, cold observatory domes, coffee gone stale, and tired eyes staring at computer screens hoping for answers. Behind the charts and models, these were real people, with careers, reputations, families, and fears. Because if they were wrong, they'd look foolish. But if they were right, humanity might not be alone. And that realization does something heavy to the mind. It changes the way you breathe. The way you stare at the sky. The way you fall asleep at night. Across continents, scientists who had never spoken to each other before now shared the same unspoken dread. What if we just witnessed the first sign of something not made by nature? Double-checking reality. More telescopes joined the observation: Chile, China, Australia, the US, even amateur astronomers with backyard rigs. They all saw the same thing. No matter who measured it. No matter what instrument was used. The light curve was wrong. Troublingly wrong. A veteran astrophysicist finally said what everyone else was thinking. It's either a new law of physics, or someone built this. That sentence changed the atmosphere in the room. People began speaking softer. Some stared at the floor. One researcher suddenly felt sick. Because no matter how exciting the idea was, no one on Earth was ready for that kind of answer. Data goes global. By now, the data had spread through private research networks. Emails flew across time zones. Confirming your curve. Same deviation here. Not an instrument issue. Not atmospheric distortion. One observatory even rebooted their entire imaging suite, taking new measurements from scratch. Same result. The object was changing. But the changes didn't fit nature. Something, shape, surface, or structure, was altering how sunlight reflected off 3I/Atlas. But why? Was it rotating strangely? Shedding material in controlled bursts? Or, responding to something? No one had answers. Only more questions. The breaking point. Then came the moment that froze the scientific community. The object's brightness didn't just fade or brighten. It changed at a rate that defied physics, too fast for ice, too stable for dust, and too intentional for chance. The charts looked like a heartbeat. Up. Down. Pause. Repeat. Like a pulse. Like a signal. Like something trying to communicate, or simply operating on its own schedule. A schedule that didn't care if humanity understood it. The quiet before everything changes. Scientists realized the truth in the most uncomfortable way. Whatever 3I/Atlas was, it wasn't just a rock drifting through space. Something was happening inside it. Or on it. Or around it. But the world still had no idea. Because for now, beyond late-night lab rooms and hushed conversations, the story remained a secret. A silent approach. A distant traveler. And a growing feeling that something impossible had just entered our solar system. And soon, everyone would know. Because the next set of data would change everything. The sun. A blazing ball of light, warmth, and energy that shapes the rhythm of our solar system. For 3I/Atlas, it was no longer a distant star on the horizon. It was the center of attention, and the test it had been quietly preparing for. As it approached perihelion, its closest point to the sun, astronomers noticed something odd. Not just a flicker. Not just a blip. A shift that made every model, every prediction, and every assumption suddenly seem fragile. The object's brightness was increasing. And not just a little. Far beyond what dust or ice could ever explain. A surface that reacts. Normally, comets warm as they near the sun. Ice sublimates. Dust erupts. Jets form. And the comet brightens. But the light curve of 3I/Atlas didn't match this pattern. Instead of random bursts, the brightness increased in smooth, deliberate waves, almost as if the surface were conscious. Astronomers stared at the numbers, blinking in disbelief. Maybe it's just an unknown material, one said. Maybe, another replied, but nothing we've ever studied behaves like this. The surface reflected sunlight in ways that should have been impossible. It wasn't just reflective, it was selective. Bright spots appeared in some areas, dimming in others, and then shifting again, almost like mirrors realigning. The effect was subtle but undeniable. The sun was touching 3I/Atlas, and the object was doing something in response. Building the mystery. Across observatories from Chile to Japan, data poured in. Every telescope showed the same effect.
Music licensing
Every instrument confirmed
reimagined.
it. And as the object got closer to the sun, the pattern became stronger, not weaker. Some scientists hypothesized surface jets, geysers of gas or ice reacting to heat. Others suggested strange rotation, a tumbling object exposing patches to sunlight unpredictably. But neither theory fit. The timing was too precise. The pulses too deliberate. And for the first time, a quiet thought began circulating among the team.
Artlist.io.
What if this is not natural? The idea was whispered behind closed doors, like a forbidden word. No one wanted to say it aloud. And yet, they all felt it. Because the brightness of 3I/Atlas was no longer just unusual. It was purposeful. A scientist's midnight revelation.
Artlist.io.
It was 2:13 a.m. in a small observatory in Hawaii. The air smelled faintly of ozone and cold metal. Outside, the sky was black, pierced by stars. Dr. Elena Torres, one of the lead astronomers, leaned back in her chair and stared at the latest light curve. The line on the graph
Music
pulsed up,
licensing
down, then
reimagined.
paused, like it had a heartbeat. She whispered to herself. "Are you alive?" No one answered. No one could. She knew it sounded ridiculous. And yet, something deep in the data stirred a strange, uneasy excitement. The object's surface seemed to be interacting with the sun, not passively absorbing its energy, but shaping its reflection. Bright flashes appeared when the sun hit it from certain angles. Then faded when the angle shifted.
Artlist.io.
Then returned, almost predictably, like a code being written in sunlight. Humanity watches. News hadn't spread yet, it was still early, still, data in progress. But even within the scientific community, excitement mixed with fear. If this was a natural phenomenon, it was unlike
Music
anything ever seen.
licensing reimagined.
If it wasn't, the implications were unimaginable. Some researchers began to sketch mental models of reflective surfaces, internal cavities, or unknown materials, anything that could explain the brightness. Some even started considering artificial possibilities, shaking their heads immediately afterward, afraid to speak the words aloud. Because space, vast and indifferent, rarely presents messages meant for us. And yet, this object was different. Light like a whisper.
Artlist.io.
The sun bathed 3I/Atlas in blinding light. And in return, the object returned it back in waves, subtle, deliberate, precise. Not enough to signal radios. Not enough to pierce the atmosphere. But enough to be measured. Enough to make scientists pause.
Music
Enough to make them wonder.
reimagined.
Could an object this far away really be shaping sunlight this carefully? Could it be responding to heat, or to something else entirely? The room grew quieter as more data arrived. The charts now pulsed in near-perfect timing with the object's rotation. Bright streaks of reflected sunlight traced the contours of the mysterious body. And somewhere inside the numbers, a pattern emerged. A pattern that didn't feel random. A pattern that felt deliberate.
Artlist.io.
Theories take shape. Cautious conversations began to turn into full debates. One scientist suggested. It could be a crystalline surface, something reflecting sunlight in a complex, structured way. Another countered. No crystal behaves like this, look at the timing. Look at the consistency.
Music licensing reimagined.
This is controlled. Some even proposed instruments had failed. But when independent observatories repeated measurements, the anomaly remained. The surface of 3I/Atlas was not just brightening, it was performing a complex dance with the sun's rays. Every rotation, every reflection, seemed orchestrated. It wasn't just a rock warming in space. It was performing. A silent warning. And yet, the object
Artlist.io.
remained silent. No radio signals. No transmissions. No obvious signs of life. Only the light. And it spoke volumes. The sun illuminated the object. And 3I/Atlas returned the gaze, refracting and reflecting the energy in a way that defied all
Music
expectation.
licensing reimagined.
It was like a mirror held up to the universe. A mirror we didn't know how to read. The cosmic cliffhanger. As 3I/Atlas edged closer to perihelion, the effect intensified. Reflectivity soared, creating sharp flashes visible even in smaller telescopes. The object was alive in ways no one could quantify, alive in ways no one could ignore. And somewhere in the data, a silent question lingered. Was it reacting purely to physics?
Artlist.io.
Or was it aware of us watching? The sun would continue to test it. And humanity would continue to watch. But for now, we could only wait. Wait for the next flash. Wait for the next pattern. Wait for the impossible truth hiding in plain sight. Because 3i/Atlas was no longer just passing through. It had begun to show its hand. And what it was about to reveal could change everything we thought we knew about the universe. The night sky had been calm. Quiet. Ordinary. And then, it pulsed. At first, it was almost imperceptible, a faint flicker in brightness, barely noticeable to the naked eye, seen only through sensitive instruments. But across observatories spanning the globe, the same flicker appeared. Again. And again. Perfectly timed, down to the fraction of a second. 3i/Atlas was no longer just reflecting sunlight. It was signaling. The first observations. It started in Chile. A researcher, tired from hours staring at charts, noticed a repeating spike in the data. He rubbed his eyes. Impossible, he muttered. The spike returned, again, and again, like clockwork. Every pulse was identical, separated by an exact interval. Not random. Not chaotic. Almost, intentional. He sent an email to colleagues in Hawaii. Check this. Something's happening. Within hours, teams in Europe, Japan, and Australia confirmed the same pattern. Every telescope, every sensor, every observation, identical pulses, perfectly synchronized. And just like that, what had seemed like a minor anomaly became undeniable. 3i/Atlas was not behaving naturally. Synchronized to the second. The intervals were precise. 1 pulse, 2, 3, with exact timing. Scientists compared the measurements, double-checked instruments, rebooted sensors, even recalibrated entire systems. Nothing explained it. No known comet, asteroid, or interstellar object could produce pulses like this. One astronomer whispered to herself in disbelief. It's like it knows we're watching. No one spoke louder than a whisper. Because if this was true, if it really was deliberate, humanity had just stumbled on something unprecedented. The global reaction. News didn't leak yet. The phenomenon remained within the scientific community, at least for now. But behind closed doors, tension spread like wildfire. Meetings ran late into the night. Conversations in hallways became hushed debates. Scientists who usually spoke in calm, measured tones now muttered words like signal, pattern, artificial. It was hard to say. Because saying it aloud made it feel real. Too real. And yet, everyone could see it in the numbers. Pulse after pulse. Perfect intervals. A pattern that could not be explained by physics alone. Patterns that defy chance. The pulses weren't chaotic. They followed a precise rhythm, like a heartbeat, or a metronome. Some researchers tried comparing it to natural phenomena. A spinning comet? No. Jets of gas. Timing too perfect. Random material shedding? Impossible. Every calculation led to the same uncomfortable truth. This was something else. Something deliberate. Something aware. Dr. Torres, now fully awake and staring at her monitor, wrote in her notebook. Nature doesn't pulse like this. Something is transmitting. She didn't say it out loud. She didn't need to. Everyone watching the data understood the weight of that thought. The silent question. But transmitting to whom? Or what? Earth? Some hidden observer in the void? Or perhaps, something more abstract, a mechanism designed to interact with the universe in a language we don't understand? The question hung in the room like the tension before a storm. No one had answers. Only more questions. Night turns to day. Weeks passed. Data kept streaming in. Pulse after pulse. Sometimes faint, sometimes strong. Always consistent. Astronomers stopped referring to it as a glitch. That term no longer applied. It had become an event. The pulse was a heartbeat in the void. A rhythm slicing across millions of miles of emptiness. And it was now visible, measurable, undeniable. Attempting communication. Some scientists tried to see if they could interact. Could they send a signal back? Could the pulse be responded to? They transmitted faint radio bursts, hoping to provoke a reaction. The universe remained silent. Yet 3I/Atlas continued its steady pulse, untouched by human attempts. Like a lighthouse in space, shining a rhythm only it could control. And every pulse seemed to carry a question back. Do you understand? The human weight. Behind the data, the human side of this discovery grew heavier. Sleepless nights. Obsessive charts. Eyes strained from hours staring at blinking monitors. Scientists began to dream in pulses. Wakeful moments felt measured, like seconds ticking in rhythm with the distant object. Conversations at home started to sound hollow because the mind kept returning to the pattern. This wasn't just science anymore. It was personal. Because for the first time, humanity was confronted with the possibility that the universe was sending something deliberate. And we weren't ready. Global verification. International cooperation became urgent. Observatories coordinated to cross-check timings. Data packets were transmitted across continents. Every single pulse had to be confirmed, a global effort to ensure the anomaly was real. And it was. The pulse persisted. The rhythm persisted. And every confirmation deepened the sense of awe and fear. No instrument could explain it. No natural model fit. The object was alive with intention. A pattern emerges. Mathematicians and astronomers worked through the night, plotting the pulses in 3 dimensions, analyzing frequency, duration, and amplitude. And slowly, a pattern emerged. It wasn't random. It wasn't simple. It was structured. Coherent. Like a message, or instructions. But what language was this? What system of logic could this pulse represent? Even the most optimistic scientists hesitated. Even the bravest minds shivered at the thought. Because this pulse wasn't just a signal in the dark. It was a statement. And statements require interpretation. The cosmic cliffhanger. And then, one night, the pulses shifted. A subtle change. Not a stop. Not a break. Just, a variation in timing. The rhythm remained, but now it felt deliberate in a way that suggested awareness. The object was no longer just sending pulses. It was responding. The room went silent. Every pair of eyes fixed on the monitors. Every heart racing. Because the universe had spoken in a heartbeat. And humanity was only beginning to listen. 3I/Atlas pulsed in the dark. A rhythm that defied chance. A rhythm that could not be ignored. A rhythm that carried a question across millions of miles of empty space. Who is watching? And the answer. We did not yet know. The universe has a rhythm. Cold, silent, predictable. Objects warm when near stars. They cool when they drift away. It's simple. It's natural. It's what physics teaches us. But 3I/Atlas was breaking the rules. The first thermal anomaly. It started with infrared scans. Sensitive telescopes measuring heat picked up a pattern that no one expected. Instead of slowly warming as it approached the sun, the object's temperature shifted in wave-like cycles. Heating, cooling, then heating again. Like a machine running on a schedule. Not random. Not chaotic. Precise. One astronomer leaned over the monitor, eyes wide. This isn't possible. And yet, the numbers didn't lie. 3I/Atlas was cycling through temperatures with a precision no natural object could achieve. Waves of heat. The thermal waves moved across the object's surface. One side would flare, then fade. Another would heat moments later. The pattern repeated, predictable, controlled. Geologists and physicists argued over data. Could it be a chemical reaction? Unusual ice behavior? Volatile gases? Every explanation fell apart. The heating didn't match sunlight exposure. The cooling didn't match shadow or rotation. It was as if something inside the object was deliberately managing the energy. One researcher whispered in disbelief. It's like it's alive, Or at least, self-aware. A machine in disguise. The thought spread quietly through the observatories. No one said it out loud at first. Careers, reputations, and reason itself seemed to caution them. But the data was insistent. Every thermal cycle followed an algorithm. Every fluctuation aligned with internal logic. It didn't look like rock. It didn't act like ice. It didn't behave like anything natural. It looked like a machine. A machine built to survive the void. A machine that could regulate itself. A machine whose design we could only guess at. Observers in awe. In Chile, astronomers huddled around monitors in the cold night air. They had tracked asteroids, comets, even interstellar visitors before. But never anything like this. The waves of heat, moving in controlled pulses, seemed almost intelligent. Not conscious, perhaps, but deliberate. It was impossible to look away. Every fluctuation was a story, a message, a signal of something more than stone and ice. Even the most skeptical scientists felt it. A shiver ran down their spines. Because 3I/Atlas was no longer a distant rock. It was something else. Humanity watches. Back on Earth, data was analyzed in shifts around the clock. Thermal readings were plotted, replotted, checked again. And everywhere, the pattern persisted. Heating, cooling, heating, cooling. No external force could explain it. No cometary physics could account for it. No geological model made sense. The object was regulating itself. And the realization began to sink in. It didn't need us. It wasn't reacting to us. It was operating on its own. Questions multiply. The obvious question lingered. If it's a machine, what powers it? Internal reactors? Solar energy harvested and redistributed? Or something beyond our understanding? Some researchers speculated cautiously. Maybe it's hollow, maybe it's engineered for survival in interstellar space, maybe we are looking at a probe. Others shook their heads. Impossible, they said. Yet, deep down, none could ignore the patterns. Every cycle, every pulse, every wave said the same thing. This is not a natural object. The emotional toll. As the days passed, the human side of this discovery began to weigh heavily. Astronomers became obsessed with the data. Sleep came in fragments. Dreams carried thermal graphs. Family dinners ended with distracted glances at phone alerts, new temperature readings received. Because for the first time, humanity faced something that felt alien. Something operating on logic we couldn't fully decode. Something that was not only outside our solar system, but outside our understanding. And yet, it was right here, in front of us, pulsing in the cold dark. The machine hypothesis. Eventually, whispers grew into tentative discussions. Some dared to call it a machine, a probe, a construct, perhaps even a relic of another civilization. Arguments erupted. It's too hot in some areas. No, too cold in others. It's clearly regulating heat. Machines don't exist out here. It's impossible. Yet, the data was clear. A pattern repeated every few hours, moving across the surface in a wave-like motion. Energy was being shifted and managed. Not like a natural object, not like rock and ice. Like a mechanism built to endure, to operate, to survive. And as the object edged closer to the sun, the waves grew stronger. Brighter. Faster. Sharper. Whatever was inside 3I/Atlas, it was waking up. The cosmic question. If 3I/Atlas was a machine, what was its purpose? Was it a scout? A probe? An artifact of a civilization long gone? Or something else entirely? No one had an answer. And yet, the question consumed them. The more data arrived, the clearer one thing became. 3I/Atlas was not just passing through. It was revealing itself, layer by layer, pulse by pulse, heat wave by heat wave. And humanity had never witnessed anything like it. The silent realization. In a quiet control room, Dr. Torres leaned back, staring at the infrared map. The object's surface glowed in shifting patterns, each fluctuation precise, deliberate, and mesmerizing. And then she realized. We were no longer observers. We were witnesses. To a machine. Or something that behaved like one. Something that could survive the void. Something that defied every expectation of physics, nature, and probability. And as the sun continued to pour energy onto the object, the waves of heat rippled again. A silent, controlled heartbeat in the dark. The cliffhanger. 3I/Atlas was no longer just an interstellar visitor. It was a mystery we could see, measure, and feel. It was pulsing in thermal waves. But not for us. Not yet. The question remained. Who, or what, had designed it? And why was it showing signs of life, or intelligence, in the cold emptiness of space? The answers would not come easily. But the next anomaly would push humanity even closer to the impossible. Because the universe had a way of revealing itself, in waves. And 3I/Atlas was just beginning to speak. Space is mostly silent. A vast, empty void where light travels for billions of miles without interruption. Except now, something was speaking. Not in words. Not in sounds we could hear. But in faint, deliberate modulations hidden deep within the static. Radio telescopes across Earth began picking it up. The first faint signal. It started as a whisper. A minor blip on the readings. So small, so faint, that most could have mistaken it for noise. But trained eyes noticed the pattern, subtle, rhythmic, and structured. Dr. Elena Torres stared at her screen. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. And yet, she couldn't look away. It's not just static, she muttered. Her voice barely audible over the hum of the observatory. It's organized. Someone, or something, is transmitting. She didn't say it aloud. The words sounded impossible. But the data, it was undeniable. Cross-checking. Immediately, the observatory contacted teams in Europe, Asia, and Australia. Everyone analyzed the same frequency bands, the same sections of static. Everyone confirmed the same pattern. Weak, but coherent. Structured, but faint. And for the first time, the scientific community had to confront an uncomfortable truth. This signal wasn't natural. It didn't behave like the background radiation of space. It didn't match cosmic microwave patterns, pulsars, or solar emissions. It had order. Rhythm. Intention. And intention, that word carried weight. The debate. Soon, debates erupted. Some scientists argued caution. Let's wait for more data, they said. Don't jump to conclusions. It could be interference. A glitch. A terrestrial source we've missed. Others whispered the unthinkable. What if it isn't interference? What if it's responding to us? Or even worse, independent. Meetings ran late. Rooms filled with tense silences. Every chart, every reading, every blip was scrutinized. And while they argued, the signals continued. Quiet. Persistent. Structured. Data was louder than fear. Patterns beneath the noise. The signals weren't obvious. Not at first glance. Buried under layers of cosmic static, they were subtle, almost shy. But as scientists plotted them, patterns began to emerge. Intervals repeated. Peaks and valleys mirrored each other. Waveforms aligned across continents. One researcher whispered. It's speaking, in a language we don't understand yet. Others nodded in silence. No one wanted to say it aloud. Because saying it aloud would mean accepting the impossible. The human side. Behind the screens, the human toll was real. Technicians slept at their desks. Families went days without seeing their loved ones. Emails flew through time zones, frantic and precise. And all the while, the signals persisted, patient, unwavering, waiting. It wasn't just a scientific anomaly anymore. It had become personal. Each researcher felt the pull, the weight, the responsibility of witnessing something that might be the first undeniable proof of intelligence beyond Earth. And yet, nobody spoke openly. The truth was too fragile. Too terrifying. Attempting decoding. Teams tried decoding the pulses. Fourier transforms, signal analyses, cross-correlation with optical and thermal data. Sometimes, faint repetitions appeared, echoes that suggested structure, deliberate modulation. Patterns within patterns. Signals within signals.
Music
But the meaning,
reimagined.
still unknown. And that unknown carried a tension that gripped every heart in every observatory. Because for the first time, humanity realized that the universe wasn't just full of stars and planets. It might be full of intelligence, silent, subtle, and patient. The fear of announcement. The question became, should they tell the world? Some argued yes. Transparency is essential. Humanity deserves to know. Others argued no. Wait. Confirm. Ensure it's not a mistake. Imagine the panic if we're wrong. Emails circulated like electric fire. The debate went on for days. Yet, the signals didn't wait. They kept coming. Unwavering. Persistent. Structured. It was as if the object didn't care about human hesitation. It had its own rhythm. Its own purpose. The first global alert. Eventually, the weight of confirmation could not be ignored. An emergency global conference was called. Scientists from every continent pored over data. The patterns were undeniable. The pulses existed. They were measured. They were structured. And with that confirmation came a quiet acknowledgement. Whatever this object was, it was communicating. Not in words we could read. Not in a language we could understand. But in pulses, patterns, and modulation. And suddenly, the universe felt smaller, and infinitely more complex. The emotional moment. Dr. Torres stepped outside into the cold night. The stars stretched endlessly above her. She breathed in the air, heavy with ozone and the faint scent of pine. Somewhere out there, 3I/Atlas drifted silently through space. And it pulsed. And it waited. And it seemed to know that we were listening. Her heart pounded. She didn't speak. She couldn't. For in that moment, humanity was no longer just observers of the cosmos. We were participants. Even if we didn't fully understand the rules. The cliffhanger. As the days passed, the signals grew slightly stronger. Patterns became clearer. The structure more defined. And then, late one night, a new modulation appeared, one that hadn't been there before. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. But undeniably deliberate. A question, it seemed. A response. And in observatories around the world, every scientist leaned in, holding their breath. Because 3I/Atlas wasn't just passing through space anymore. It was communicating. And the universe had just whispered back. 3I/Atlas had shifted from a silent observer to an active participant. From a drifting rock to a messenger. From an anomaly to a mystery. And humanity was only beginning to realize. We were listening to something impossible. There are moments in science when the room goes quiet. When the air feels heavy. When everyone realizes the data on the screen doesn't belong in the world we know. This was one of those moments. Across observatories, the signal from 3I/Atlas kept repeating, structured, precise, steady. The pattern didn't drift. It didn't wobble. It didn't behave like natural physics should. And finally, a few scientists dared to say the words everyone was too afraid to speak. It looks engineered. A sentence that could end a career. But, the numbers didn't lie. The first scientist to speak. Dr. Malik Rahman, a systems engineer turned astronomer, spent 18 hours straight staring at pulse visualizations. His eyes were bloodshot. His brain was foggy. Yet something in the data clicked, like a gear snapping into position. This isn't random. This isn't geological. We're looking at modulation, deliberate modulation. His colleagues froze. Some looked confused. Others stared at him like he had just lost his mind. One finally spoke. "You're suggesting it's not natural." Rahman didn't answer in words. He just turned his monitor toward them, revealing overlaid calculations, pulse spacing, signal symmetry, and something that no one wanted to see. The pulses matched engineering tolerances. Human-grade precision. Machine-like consistency. A natural object shouldn't do that. Fear before belief. No one yelled. No one celebrated. Instead, people panicked quietly. Because ideas are safe when they stay inside the mind. Once spoken out loud, they become dangerous. One researcher whispered, "If this is artificial, then everything changes." Another shook her head. "If we announce this and we're wrong, we destroy the credibility of astronomy for a decade." And that was the real fear. Not aliens. Not technology. Not contact. But the end of scientific reputations, careers built over lifetimes, waiting to collapse with one headline. The back-channel meeting. That night, a private meeting took place. No cameras. No official minutes. Just a dozen of the world's most respected astronomers, sitting around a dim conference table, staring at data projected on a wall. Lines of pulses. Repeating modulations. Frequency tracking curves that shouldn't exist in nature unless governed by a regulating system. Someone asked. Could it be a new class of object? Another answered. If it were natural, there should be noise. Variation. Deviation. Chaos. But this pattern is too clean. Then Dr. Rahman cleared his throat, a small sound that felt enormous in the silence. I have cross-checked the pulse spacing with system control models. The result is a 77% confidence match with engineered thermal regulation. Several scientists inhaled sharply. Someone said, "Do you understand what you're saying?" Rahman nodded. "Yes. And I'm saying it because the math forces me to." The risk. The room knew the cost of such a statement. If wrong, he would never receive another grant. His name would disappear from research journals. He would become a cautionary tale, the scientist who mistook noise for aliens. If right, history would remember him forever. Rahman leaned back, exhausted. I don't want this to be artificial. I'm not hoping for it. But the data leads there, and we have to follow the data, even if it scares us. Silence followed. Not disagreement, but the silence of people realizing they were crossing a line humanity had never crossed before. The leak. Of course, secret meetings never stay secret. Someone, no one knows who, sent an anonymous message to a private science forum. Internal analysis suggests engineered modulation. Official confirmation pending. A handful of researchers saw the post and immediately recognized the phrasing. Someone inside was tipping the world off. Rumors exploded. Was 3I/Atlas a probe? A device? A machine crossing the ecliptic under its own control? Nobody had answers. Only questions, and data that refused to go away. The emotional toll. Rahman stopped going home. He slept in the observatory lounge, the kind of exhausted sleep where you close your eyes and instantly dream of blinking signal graphs. Some colleagues avoided him, afraid of being associated with the alien theory. Others quietly supported him, slipping him printed data, statistics, trend charts, little fragments that proved the pulses were real. He felt like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, terrified of falling, but even more terrified of stepping back. Because if he was right, then the world was about to change. The second researcher breaks. Dr. Carmenly tried to resist. She wanted a simpler explanation: dust jets, optical interference, comet voltage charging, anything that would fit into known physics. For 2 weeks, she fought the data. Then at 3:14 a.m., she ran a harmonic analysis, just to prove Rahman wrong. But instead, she froze. Because the harmonics lined up in ratios that reminded her of resonance management, the type used in spacecraft thermal systems. She sat alone in the dark lab, staring at the screen. Her heart racing. I don't want this to be artificial, she whispered. But the numbers, they don't care what I want. She emailed Rahman one line. Check your inbox. I think I just joined your exile. Attached were her results, and confirmation that his conclusions weren't a hallucination. The growing divide. Soon, 2 camps formed. The traditionalists. Scientists terrified of being wrong, holding to the natural explanation no matter how tight the data squeezed. The accused visionaries. A small group risking their careers to say the quiet truth. This doesn't look natural. They weren't claiming aliens. They weren't building theories of origin. They were simply reading the math. But in science, math can be more
Music
dangerous than belief.
Reimagined.
The cold reality. By the end of the second week, over 40 researchers had independently run the same analyses. Most stayed silent. Only 3 were brave, or desperate, enough to speak publicly within the scientific circle. Ramon, Lee, and Dr. Gabriel Torres, a brilliant but blunt researcher who wrote, "We are trained to follow evidence. The evidence is pointing somewhere new. Ignoring it is not caution, it is fear." If this had been any other topic, they might have been applauded. But artificial origin was poison to reputations. Rumors began circulating that their missions might lose funding. That universities were distancing themselves. That journals would refuse publication. It was scientific
Music
exile,
licensing
delivered by whispers and
reimagined.
closed-door conversations. And yet, the data didn't break. Every new transmission from 3I/Atlas reinforced the same truth. Predictability. Precision. Modulation without drift. Temperature profiles that behaved like controlled cycles, not geological randomness. In private, top analysts admitted, it is getting harder to argue for a natural cause. In public, they stayed silent. Because humanity wasn't just fighting unknown physics. We were fighting our fear of what it meant. The cliffhanger. And then, something happened. A new data burst appeared. Not faint. Not buried. Not subtle. A clean, unmistakable
Music
shift in modulation,
licensing
sharper,
reimagined.
more defined than anything seen before. One analyst stared at her screen and whispered. It responded. But to what? A previous pulse we detected? A signal we sent without realizing it? Or something else entirely? The room didn't know. But everyone felt the same cold realization. If 3I/Atlas was a machine, then it wasn't just drifting through space. It was listening, reacting, waiting. And humanity had just crossed into a story we were never prepared to tell. There comes a point where numbers stop behaving like nature. And start behaving like engineering. That moment arrived late one night, when the newest computer models finished running. The results
Music
were simple,
licensing
shocking, and
reimagined.
impossible to ignore. 3I/Atlas had a hollow interior. Not partially hollow. Not fractured like a comet or asteroid. But a cavity, deep, symmetrical, and large enough to house something. Something built. The model that changed everything. The revelation began with thermal simulations. For days, researchers had tried to explain the way the object heated and cooled, in smooth, wave-like curves that resembled feedback regulation, not geology. So they ran heat flow mathematics backwards, trying to see what kind of internal structure could produce such behavior. The results made everyone stare at the screen in silence. To regulate temperature that precisely, 3I/Atlas would need internal voids, chambers where heat could gather and disperse in controlled cycles. Solid rock or ice couldn't do that. Only a structured interior could. Dr. Carmen Lee sat back in her chair and exhaled. If this model is correct, then we're not looking at a comet anymore. And no one in the room disagreed. The interior cavity. The cavity was enormous.
Music licensing
Hundreds of meters
reimagined.
across, maybe more, depending on how deep the regulation went. Immediately, comparisons began flying. Could it be volcanic hollowing? No, the shape is too symmetrical. Could it be a fractured body? Then the cycles would vary. They don't. Someone finally said the words everyone was dancing around. This looks designed. And suddenly, the room felt colder. The silent acknowledgement.
Artlist.io.
No one wanted to say it officially. Because acknowledging artificial structure meant accepting a reality humanity had avoided for centuries. We may not be alone. But numbers don't respect fear. They don't care about careers. They don't care about our place in the universe. The simulation simply showed what it
Music
showed.
licensing
And the
reimagined.
implications were undeniable. The machine hypothesis is born. Dr. Ramon opened a new file and typed a title at the top. 3I/Atlas, Preliminary Evidence for Artificial Internal Structure. He didn't attach his name at first. He just stared at the blinking cursor. Because he understood the weight of what came next. This wasn't just a scientific paper. This was an accusation against the universe itself. That something out there, beyond our solar system, was built. A machine. A vessel. A device. But by whom? And for what purpose? Rahman knew he didn't have answers. But he did have data. And data was enough. The Whisper Network. News began spreading quietly, through encrypted emails, private Zoom calls, after-hours office conversations. At first, scientists spoke cautiously. There is thermal evidence of a structured cavity. Then less cautiously. The interior fits machine-grade modeling. And eventually, it is more likely engineered than natural. Almost no one spoke in public. But behind closed doors, the machine hypothesis was growing, fast. One astronomer joked nervously. We just became part of the biggest secret in human history. No one laughed. Object behavior raises more questions. New measurements added fuel to the fire. 3I/Atlas wasn't spinning like a natural object. Its rotational drift was too stable, as if gyros or internal balancing mechanisms were at work. Its reflectivity wasn't random, it shifted predictably as if certain surface areas changed configuration. One scientist stared at the latest graphs and whispered. It behaves like something holding station, not something tumbling through space. Those words hit everyone in the room. Because only machines hold position. Rocks do not. The big unknown, who built it? Once the machine idea entered the conversation, another question naturally followed. If it is a machine, then where, and who, did it come from? Three main theories emerged. Theory 1, it was built in another star system. If true, then 3I/Atlas had traveled for thousands, maybe millions, of years before reaching us. Which meant its builders could be long gone. Dust. Memory. Lost civilizations. Theory 2, it was built recently, somewhere nearby. A chilling possibility, because if that were true, someone out there might still be active in our galactic neighborhood. Theory 3, it wasn't meant to be found at all. A probe abandoned, forgotten, or malfunctioning, drifting silently until our telescopes happened to spot it. None of the theories made scientists feel better. Every possibility was large and uncomfortable. Accepting the unthinkable. Eventually, during a meeting that stretched past midnight, Dr. Lee stood and addressed the room. Her voice was tired but steady. We have reached a point where natural explanations require more assumptions than artificial ones. At some point, we must follow the simpler model. A few scientists looked shaken. One replied. You're saying that the machine hypothesis is now the default? Lee nodded. No. I'm saying it is now the mathematically strongest candidate. That subtle difference meant everything. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't science fiction. This was analysis. Human reactions. Some scientists felt fear. Others awe. Many were simply overwhelmed. Because all their lives, they had studied the universe as a natural, quiet machine of physical laws. But now, staring at this signal drifting in from the darkness, they were forced to accept something else. The universe wasn't just a place. It might be populated. And something out there had built a structure that crossed into our solar system, without breaking, without announcing itself, without warning. Humbling. Terrifying. Beautiful. Mathematical confirmation. The breakthrough came when 3 independent labs, one in Tokyo, one in Berlin, one in Buenos Aires, completed the same modeling. All 3 produced the same result. Hollow geometry. Symmetrical cavity. Thermal modulation consistent with controlled systems. Behavior matching energy regulating machinery. The chances of 3 independent models matching by coincidence. Less than 1 in 10,000. That number mattered. Because science doesn't need belief. It only needs convergence. And convergence had arrived. The growing pressure. Governments had started paying attention. Quiet phone calls. Unmarked cars at observatories. Visitors who asked many questions but carried no badges. The machine hypothesis was no longer an academic curiosity. It had become a geopolitical asset. Because if the object was a machine, whoever understood it first would gain something the world had never known.
Reimagined.
Technological insight from beyond Earth. That idea shook scientists to their core. They had spent their lives searching for answers, and now they were afraid of who might own them. The cliffhanger. One night, as Dr. Rahman reviewed the newest cavity model, something unexpected appeared. A faint return echo buried in thermal data, not from the object's surface, but deeper. Inside the cavity. Rahman's tired eyes widened.
Artlist.io.
He ran the analysis 3 more times. The result didn't change. There was something inside. Something giving off its own signal. Something separate from the outer shell. He whispered, barely audible. It's not just hollow. His voice trembled. It's occupied.
Music licensing
And suddenly,
reimagined.
every theory seemed too small. Because 3I/Atlas might not be just a machine. It might be a vessel. A vessel that had just begun to wake. The night we sent a message to 3I/Atlas, the world seemed to hold its breath. It was not a casual experiment. It was not a playful signal into the void. It was humanity speaking for the first time, with purpose, with intent. For decades, we had observed the cosmos.
Artlist.io.
We had studied stars, comets, asteroids, and pulsars. We had watched the heavens in silence. And now, we were trying to speak back. Preparing the message. The message itself was carefully constructed. Mathematicians insisted on encoding universal constants, the kind of knowledge
Music
that any advanced
licensing
civilization,
reimagined.
or machine, might understand. Atomic structures. Prime numbers. Patterns in the hydrogen line. Engineers ensured it was precise, optimized for the vast distance, and transmitted at frequencies that had already been monitored from 3I/Atlas. Nothing was left to chance. Scientists rehearsed the broadcast as if it were a symphony, a careful arrangement of notes sent into the void. This is our first greeting, Dr. Rahman said quietly.
Artlist.io.
And we need to make it count. The transmission. When the moment came, the signal fired across millions of kilometers of space. It was a pulse of intent, reaching toward an object that had already defied nature, mathematics, and expectation. For a few hours, the observatory was silent. Every eye was fixed on monitors, waiting for the faintest flicker of a response. The world waited, even though they didn't know it. And then, nothing. No increase in pulse strength. No shift in modulation. No signal change of any kind. Cold. Absolute. Unyielding silence. The emotional response. The room was quiet at first. Then whispers began. It didn't respond. It's ignoring us.
Artlist.io.
Or it can't respond. Some scientists sank into their chairs, exhausted. Some leaned closer to screens, desperate to find something they had missed. Some stared at the ceiling, imagining a machine drifting through the void, aware, waiting, silent. Silence can be heavy. It can
Music
feel like an
licensing
absence.
reimagined.
But in moments like this, it can also feel like a presence, a choice, a deliberate statement. And humanity realized, slowly, that silence might be a message. Silence as communication. For years, we had assumed communication meant sound, or signals, or modulation. We had assumed intelligence would respond in ways we could measure. And yet, the absence of response was itself profound. Some whispered theories.
Artlist.io.
Perhaps 3I/Atlas was observing. Perhaps it did not consider our message worth acknowledgement. Perhaps it already knew we were here. Or perhaps it was testing us, in a way we could not yet understand. Dr. Lee said softly. Silence isn't empty. It's deliberate. It's intentional.
Artlist.io.
It's a choice. Her words echoed in the minds of everyone watching. Because for the first time, humanity understood that not every answer comes in noise. Public reaction. News of the silence leaked, despite scientists' careful attempts to contain it. The public reacted in waves of fascination and fear.
Music licensing
Some
reimagined.
celebrated. This is proof it exists. That it's alive. That we are being observed. Some panicked. Why isn't it answering? Is it hostile? Is it testing us? Social media lit up with speculation, philosophical, scientific, and conspiratorial. Children drew pictures of mysterious interstellar machines. Politicians demanded explanations. And the world held its breath, waiting for something that might never come. Theoretical implications. The silence also forced scientists into deep reflection. If 3I/Atlas could respond but chose not to, what did that say about its intelligence? Was it conscious? Did it have reasoning, a sense of strategy, a concept of us? Some researchers suggested it was like a teacher observing a student. Some said it was like a predator watching from the shadows. Some argued it simply had no mechanism to respond. But all agreed on one thing: silence had weight. Silence implied awareness. And awareness implied something remarkable. A world on edge. In observatories across the globe, the atmosphere shifted. Shifts that were once purely academic now carried existential weight. Scientists spoke in hushed tones. Journalists tried to interpret complex mathematics for the public. Every new measurement, every pulse, every fluctuation became a clue in a story that had no known ending. And still, 3I/Atlas said nothing. Some nights, astronomers would stare up at the sky for hours, imagining the machine drifting past stars, planets, and empty voids. A single, solitary object in the universe. Awake, aware, silent. The philosophical question. Silence forced a question that humanity was not ready to answer. Was 3I/Atlas observing us like we observe ants? Was it testing our logic, our patience, our civilization? Or was it simply indifferent, a machine functioning on a schedule we could not yet decode? Philosophers argued over the implications. Mathematicians debated the probabilities. Theologians pondered what meaning, if any, could be drawn from an object that refused to respond. Silence became louder than any signal we could send. Persistence despite silence. Even in the absence of reply, the world continued to monitor. Thermal waves. Light curves. Radio pulses. Every detail was recorded. Every observation was scrutinized. Because silence was not inactivity. It was information in itself. Every moment the object remained still, every wave and pulse that didn't change, was a clue. Scientists worked tirelessly, aware that understanding might come not from a response, but from interpretation. A personal reflection. Dr. Rahman stepped outside on a clear night, staring up at the stars. He imagined 3I/Atlas somewhere in the dark, its internal cavity pulsing with heat, its pulses continuing without pause, aware of Earth far below. He realized something that made his heart tighten. The universe doesn't need to answer our questions. Sometimes, our questions exist in the space between the answers it refuses to give. And he knew, as he turned back to his monitors, that humanity was being asked to think differently. To read silence as a message. To measure absence as meaning. To interpret restraint as intelligence. The cliffhanger. The silence continues. But it has changed us. We no longer see the cosmos as passive. We no longer assume every object is inert. We no longer believe that intelligence must speak to be acknowledged. 3I/Atlas drifts closer to the sun. It pulses in light and heat. It travels on a path from nowhere, carrying secrets we cannot yet decode. And when we send a signal again, will it respond? Or will it remain silent once more? Either way, humanity has learned a new lesson. Even silence can speak volumes. And in that silence, the universe asks a question we may not be ready to answer. Are we truly alone, or are we merely being observed? For weeks after the silence, the world began to move on. News headlines shifted to politics, new movies, scandals, and sports scores. The public attention that once burned like wildfire slowly died into glowing embers. Scientists kept watching, but even they began to settle into the idea that perhaps the silence from 3I/Atlas was final. Maybe it wasn't alive. Maybe it never heard us. Maybe the pulses were nothing more than cosmic coincidence. Humanity was starting to accept the quiet. And then, everything changed. The first pulse. It began on an otherwise unremarkable night at the array in Chile. A single pulse flashed across the data stream, sharp, clean, intense. Not like before. Not soft and distant. This one hit the sensors like a hammer strike. Alarms didn't go off,
Music
protocols hadn't been written for something
reimagined.
like this. Instead, the signal analyst on duty stared at the waveform with his mouth open, whispering to himself. That's new. He checked the instruments. No solar flares. No collisions. No internal systems fault. The signal was real. And it was from 3I/Atlas. He stood up, heart pounding, and called the night supervisor. Within an hour, phones were buzzing from Chile to Europe to Asia. Scientists who had just settled into bed were sitting upright, staring at screens in disbelief. The world had changed again, but few knew it yet. Not just one pulse. Because the first pulse wasn't alone. A second followed. Then another. Then a fourth, all evenly spaced. But then the timing changed. The intervals shortened. The pulses accelerated, as if 3I/Atlas were breathing faster, or waking up. One astronomer whispered. Something inside it is responding. Another replied. No. Something inside is activating. Data technicians rapidly logged each burst, their keyboards clacking like frantic telegraphs. This wasn't random noise. This was structure. This was intention. A new pattern. Within 6 hours, the pulses had settled into a new stable pattern, faster, clearer, and more powerful than any previous measurement. Mathematicians calculated spacing. Engineers plotted heat curves. Computer scientists ran correlation algorithms. What emerged stunned everyone. The new pulse pattern carried embedded phase shifts, tiny, precise variations that didn't exist before. Someone in the room finally said what everyone was thinking. It hurt us. No one had proof yet. But deep down, everyone felt the same quiet chill. The silence had ended. For the first time, 3I/Atlas was no longer simply pulsing. It was communicating. The world learns. The story leaked faster this time. Within 12 hours, social networks exploded. Breaking, the object has changed. New signals from interstellar body. Did the machine finally answer? Talk shows debated whether humanity had just witnessed first contact. Late-night comedians tried to make jokes, but even they sounded nervous. And around kitchen tables, in dorm rooms, in cafes and classrooms, people whispered the same question. What happens now? For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just wondering if we were being watched. We were wondering. What happens when the watcher wakes up? Tracking the interior. Thermal imaging updated next. The irregular heating cycles that had once looked like slow mechanical regulation changed dramatically. Instead of smooth waves, internal temperature spikes appeared, short, sharp, rhythmic, exactly matching the new radio pulses. Engineers stared at the models in silence. The shape of the thermal graph resembled a machine booting up, system by system, layer by layer. Dr. Rahman murmured. It looks like engines warming. Or processors coming online. Another scientist swallowed hard. Something is powering up inside it. Suddenly, humanity had a new fear. If it was waking up, what would it do next? Reactivated from within. Hours passed. The pulses shifted again, now forming clusters, each cluster repeating with astonishing precision. To the human eye, the radio data appeared as blocks of motionless color. But to machines, the structure was undeniable. Advanced pattern recognition systems identified something no one expected. A repeating mathematical sequence, not natural, not geological, not random. A message. Not in language. Not in symbols. But in logic. As if 3I/Atlas were saying. I am here. I am active. I am functioning. The scientists stared at their monitors in awe. This wasn't just a machine. This was a system awake enough to send information, deliberately. Human emotion returns. Fear. Excitement. Uncertainty. Hope. All of them flooded back, stronger than before. The silence had been eerie, but safe. Now, the unknown was no longer empty. It was responding. Was this a conversation beginning? Or the approaching sound of something we did not yet understand? Some scientists felt exhilaration. They were witnessing the greatest moment in the history of science. Others felt dread. What if they had awakened something that should have remained asleep?
Artlist.io.
Not a response, a change. The International Monitoring Group met for emergency session. We cannot assume this is a reply, Dr. Lee cautioned. It didn't echo our message or return our signal. It doesn't have to, another replied. When a creature wakes up, that itself is a response.
Music licensing.
And then, another scientist
reimagined.
raised the most unsettling possibility. What if it wasn't ignoring us before? What if it wasn't capable of responding, until now? The room went silent. If the machine had cycles of operation. If it had startup phases. If it had to wake before it could speak. Then humans had just witnessed its second awakening. The public turns from watching to waiting. People who had forgotten 3i/Atlas remembered again.
Artlist.io.
Live feeds streamed from observatories. Newspapers resurrected the story. Children asked their parents if aliens were coming. Old men stared at the sky at night. Some prayed. Some celebrated. But everyone waited. This time, humanity wasn't waiting for a signal.
Music
We were waiting for
licensing
meaning.
reimagined.
A difference far more profound. A shift in presence. As the pulses strengthened, another phenomenon emerged, subtle but undeniable. 3i/Atlas albedo increased again. Its surface brightness climbed in tandem with the radio pulses. Not random. Not natural. Synced. Like a lighthouse brightening when the keeper returned to the tower. Like an eye-opening. One astronomer, staring at the brightness curve, whispered. "It's awake." No one contradicted her. And then, a pause. Just when analysts began deciphering the new signal structure. The pulses stopped. Not gradually. Not fading. Instantly. As if something inside had completed a cycle.
Reimagined.
Or finished a task. Screens froze. Graphs flattened. A hush fell across control rooms worldwide. And then every device simultaneously logged one final anomaly. A single, massive energy spike from deep inside the object, unlike anything seen before. And then, stillness. Not silence of ignorance. Silence of purpose. Something had changed. Something had completed.
Artlist.io.
Something was ready. Humanity holds its breath. We now knew two things. The machine was not static. The machine was not done. 3i/Atlas continued toward the sun, gleaming brighter than ever, a silent enigma no longer dormant. No one slept that night.
Music licensing
Not
reimagined.
astronomers. Not analysts. Not world leaders. Not the billions staring at headlines on glowing screens. Humanity waited, not for a signal. But for whatever would come next. Because the first awakening showed us it existed. The second awakening showed us it was active. And now, the universe had changed forever. For centuries, humans have looked to the sky with the same question. Are we alone?
Artlist.io.
Now, as 3i/Atlas makes its final approach around the sun, that question no longer feels abstract or poetic. It feels personal. It feels immediate. It feels like something is watching back. Scientists around the world work without sleep. Screens glow in dim labs. Coffee
Music
cups pile up on
licensing
desks.
reimagined.
Eyes stay red from hours of staring at shifting data streams. They are close. So close to deciphering the pattern. But time, the enemy no equation can defeat, is running out. Because as the object falls into perihelion, something unexpected happens. 3i/Atlas begins to accelerate. Not by gravity. Not by comet physics. By something else. Something no one is ready for. The impossible maneuver. A comet should slow slightly at perihelion. Its icy surface should vaporize into long streams of dust. Its motion should follow predictable curves that first-year astronomy students could model. But 3i/Atlas does none of that. Instead,
Music
its trajectory
licensing
bends with a precision
reimagined.
no natural object could pull off. Instruments sound alarms. Orbit plots redraw themselves in real time. Equations fail to keep up. A propulsion signature is detected. Not combustion. Not ion stream. Not anything matching known physics. One mission director whispers. It fired engines. Another answers, voice shaking. Engines from what? A surge through the sunlight. As the object swings around the sun, its brightness spikes again, not from reflection, but from activation. Its albedo reaches levels that no natural body in the solar system has ever displayed. It shines like a beacon. Like a flare. Like a message meant not just to be seen, but to be understood. And then, almost as if acknowledging its audience, the object transmits one last burst of pulses. Faster. Sharper. More layered than anything before. Computers choke on the compression. Linguists and mathematicians tear through the data. Pattern recognition systems show the presence of structure, but no system can decode it in time. Whatever the message is, humanity is too late. And then it leaves. Without warning. Without slowing. 3I/Atlas shoots outward from the solar system. The acceleration is violent, impossible. Every physically known law should tear the object apart. But it doesn't fail. It doesn't crack. It doesn't even heat. It just goes. Radio telescopes follow its fading signal until it becomes a whisper, then a ghost, then nothing. Within 12 hours, it is past the Kuiper belt. Within 3 days, it is outside Pluto's orbit. Within a week, it is gone. Slipping into the dark where no telescope can track it. Humanity watches its exit with a heavy silence. We were observers. We were witnesses. But not participants. Whatever 3I/Atlas was doing here, our role was only to watch. What was it? Press conferences explode across Earth. Every scientist has a theory. None can be proven. Some say probe. A machine designed to study young civilizations and move on. Others say warning. That the object was broadcasting not to us, but across space, to someone else. A few whisper something darker. What if the pulses were not communication, but calibration? What if we woke it up? What if our reply triggered the second activation? But without the object, without its presence, all answers evaporate. We are left with models. Equation sheets. Thermal maps. Raw signal logs. Evidence of something extraordinary, without any explanation at all. The last frame of data. Before it vanished, one final dataset arrived, a strange modulation embedded deep in the radio shift. Analysts stare at it for days. Supercomputers try to decompress it. AI systems run millions of pattern fits. Nothing works. And then an intern, working late alone, tries something different. Instead of converting the signal into numbers, he plays it as audio. The speakers emit a haunting, soft pulse. Not random. Not noise. Structured. Layered. Almost musical. Like a heartbeat. Or an engine. Or something alive, but not biological. When he plays it again, it hits him. The sound feels less like a message to us. And more like a message to itself. As if the machine were saying, cycle complete. Continue mission. No one can prove it. But the theory spreads anyway. And it changes everything. The public reaction. Humans respond the way humans always do. Some celebrate. Some fear. Some dismiss everything and go to work like nothing has changed. Teachers try to explain it to students. Parents answer impossible questions. Philosophers write overnight essays about meaning, intelligence, and existence. Religious leaders respond too. Some say the machine was creation. Some say it was a sign. Some say humanity was never meant to see it. And a tiny few warn. If someone built that, they could be out there. Still watching. Still exploring. Still deciding. A new cosmic perspective. The biggest shift is not scientific. It is emotional. Before 3I/Atlas, the universe felt empty, beautiful but indifferent. Stars were distant. Galaxies were unreachable. The sky was a quiet place. Not anymore. Now humanity knows that space may not be silent. It may be alive with machines, travelers, watchers, explorers. Maybe civilizations come and go. Maybe what survives them are the things they built, sent drifting into eternity. Maybe 3I/Atlas was not here to speak to us. Maybe we were never the focus. Maybe we just happened to look up at the right moment and witness someone else's legacy passing through. A cosmic artifact on an endless journey. And we were just in the way of its orbit. Truth without answer. In the end, humanity is left with the one conclusion scientists hate the most. We don't know. We don't know its builders. We don't know its purpose. We don't know if it understood us, or ignored us, or never cared we existed at all. We only know this. Something visited. Something impossible. Something built, not born. And it came and went with the calm, effortless confidence of a thing that has traveled for ages. The greatest discovery in human history. Arrived without introduction. And left without explanation. A truth without answer. We are changed forever. But the universe offers no closure. Just the memory of a machine gliding through sunlight. Awake. Aware. And already on its way. To somewhere else in the dark.